Ladies and gentlemen, I recently started a series where I'm taking a look at all 30 NBA teams, doing an analysis on their off season to give viewers an understanding on how I think they'll perform this upcoming season. The team we'll be taking a look at today is the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls had a very underwhelming regular season last year where they won just 40 games. This was, however, enough to get the 10th seed in the Eastern Conference, and they got a spot in the play-in tournament. So in their first matchup, they played against the Toronto Raptors. This was a tough game, but they did end up winning by 4 points. In their next game, they played against the Miami Heat, with the winner advancing to the Eastern Conference playoffs. They were up by 1 point after 3 quarters in that game, but they did have a very rough quarter, and they ended up losing by double digits. In my opinion, this is a very disappointing season for the Bulls, as expectations were high. They have a trio of DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic, as well as Zach LaVine. All three of those guys have been all-stars, with DeMar, making it multiple times in consecutive seasons, and Zach just being a year removed from the all-star team, and Vucevic being 2 seasons removed. So, definitely a big disappointment. But let's try to take a look at some of the moves they made in the offseason to see if they have improved their team. So first off, the Bulls did not have any draft picks of their own. I believe they had sent out their picks in the Nikola Vucevic trade to Orlando, and they were able to actually trade up into the second round, and they used their pick to draft Julian Phillips. Julian is a 6'8" forward from the University of Tennessee. He was actually a top 15 player in his high school draft class, but he showed that he was really raw, and I think he'll take some time to develop and probably won't have much of a role this upcoming season. And then we look at who the Bulls targeted in free agency. So one of the first guys they signed was Terry Taylor. They signed him to the veterans minimum. He's shown that he can play, but he hasn't really been given any sort of prominent role, and I don't expect him to play any significant minutes this upcoming season. Then we'll take a look at Torrey Craig. They signed him to a 2-year deal for the veterans minimum, and Torrey Craig is coming off an excellent season with the Phoenix Suns, where he had career high in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and I think this is a very underrated signing, as Torrey is a guy that can stretch the floor. He shot almost 40% from 3 last season, and he's really a willing defender and brings a lot of toughness that I feel like the Bulls have lacked the past couple seasons. So this is definitely a very good move in my opinion. Next, they signed Javon Carter for 3 years and $19.5 million. I think this is another good move, as Carter is known as the Bulldog. He really revived his career the last 1.5 years with the Milwaukee Bucks. He shot 42% from 3. He's a really good defender, and I think he'll be competing for backup point guard minutes with Ayu Dosunmu. So another fantastic move to really improve a bench that's, in my opinion, been one of the worst in the NBA. And next, they re-signed Kobe White to a 3-year, $36 million deal. Kobe's coming off the most efficient season of his career, but his counting stats have been down as his minutes per game have declined. He really needs to take a next step forward, though, because he can be a guy that can light it up, shoot the 3-ball really well, and take some pressure off the big 3. The next contract they handed out was to Ayu Dosunmu. They gave him a 3-year deal for $21 million. And Ayu's shown that he can be a quality role player, but in my opinion, he's probably going to be battling Javon Carter for backup point guard minutes. His shooting leaves something to be desired, as he's only been a 31% career shooter from 3. So for him to earn a bigger role, I think he's really going to have to improve his efficiency from deep. And then the last re-signing that I want to focus on is Nikola Vucevic for 3 years and $60 million. This is a huge re-signing. Nikola is a great player, multiple-time All-Star, walking double-double, and for $20 million, a complete steal for the Bulls. I think Vucevic is the guy that takes a lot of the criticism when the team's not doing well, and when the team is doing well, he doesn't get a lot of the credit. So he's definitely been a huge part of their success, in my opinion. But ultimately, this team is driven by the star backcourt pairing of DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. They both averaged nearly 25 points per game last season and have shown to be really superstar level players. So their games really differ a lot. DeMar is a guy that shot 50% from the field in consecutive seasons, and he's been known as a mid-range assassin. Where he lacks though is as a 3-point shooter. He has not put up he hasn't put up a season where he shot more than 2 3-pointers a game in almost 6 seasons. That's surprising, in an NBA league that's changed towards the 3-point ball, being a very, very big part of offenses. So I think he needs to become a more willing shooter from three, as this hurts this team quite a bit. Hurts their spacing. So I think for the team to really be a lot more successful, they need DeMar to be a more willing 3-point shooter. And then we take a look at Zach LaVine. He's been the complete opposite. He shot 7 threes a game the last 4 seasons in a row now. He shot about 40% from three, as well as 48% from the field in that time frame. So he's shown that he can be extremely efficient, but also very effective from three. And then you add in Nikola Vucevic, who's a willing passer, and you have a fantastic trio that, in my opinion, on paper is very, very competitive with some of the best teams in the league. And then you add in role players like Alex Caruso, who just made the All-NBA defensive team. And then with that, you add in another guy like Pat Williams, who in his first 2 full seasons has shown that he can be a very good NBA player. Shot about 40% from three, so he can stretch the floor, as a power forward. And on paper, that's a terrific starting five, one that can compete with some of the best teams in the NBA. The bench does leave a little bit to be desired, and I think that's a weakness. But it wouldn't be justice making this video without mentioning Lonzo Ball, who is deemed to be out for the entire season, and will miss about 1.5 years of playing time now since his first injury. And when he was healthy, he had the Bulls in the first place in the Eastern Conference, so missing Lonzo will be huge. In my opinion, though, this team, just as it is, it's sometimes hard to figure out. Some games they look so good, and other games they look so flat. Just this team overall should be one that's competing for the 7th or 8th seed in the Eastern Conference, with upside for much more. So let's just see how they perform. Wishing the Bulls the best of luck this upcoming season. If you like this video, please leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much.